just 3 games remaining in the regular season, do the Denver Broncos have some injury concerns to manage before the playoffs? And if Peyton Watson does indeed miss time, can Nikola Jokic find a way to maintain the Nuggets' success as they begin and continue one of their best starts in franchise history? All things to come on today's rundown. Thank you so much for joining us. While you're here, make sure you like and subscribe to our Denver Sports 1043 The Fan YouTube channel. You can find us at Denver Sports 1043 on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. If you're watching us on X or on Facebook, we love you. We appreciate you. Feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe, and turn on those post notifications so that you never miss a moment with us. Plenty to get into today. I want to welcome in friend of the show, Jake Shapiro, Denver sports analyst for denversports.com. What's going on, Jake?
Hey, Richie, really just hyped up after an awesome basketball game last night in Denver, Colorado, and I'm just still thinking about it.
You know what? Let's start there, actually. Let's start with the Nuggets game against the Houston Rockets in what was a de facto battle of the bigs. You had Nikola Jokic and Alperen Şengün. And, Jake, I think if you had told the Houston Rockets, or certainly Rockets fans, if you had given them a peek into a crystal ball 48 hours ago and said, hey, Alperen Şengün is going to go 30, 10, and 10, the Rockets are probably going to win that game. Unfortunately, the 33, 10, and 10 was not good enough to top 39, 15, and 10 from the Joker himself. Are we witnessing kind of a real-life example of more and more young athletic big men in the NBA who are modeling their game similarly after Nikola Jokic, and maybe a foreshadowing of some potential player-to-player matchups more like this for Jokic down the road?
Yeah, I'll give Jokic all the credit in the world for this, but I also want to shout out Giannis Antetokounmpo on this aspect. Similar to the way the league was revolutionized with shooting with Steph Curry, and how every player coming up realized the importance of shooting, wanted to be like Steph. I think the last 10 years, really, 9 years ago yesterday, Nikola Jokic became the full starter for the Denver Nuggets. Bigs have been taught to be more skilled, to think about the game as a point guard rather than a center, to be the most valuable chess piece on the board, similar to the way centers were for most of NBA history. And with both Giannis Antetokounmpo and Nikola Jokic bringing those skills, those guard skills to the center position for years, you're seeing the influx of it now with guys like Hassan Yang from the Portland Trailblazers all the way to Alperen Şengün. And these guys are from China, from Turkey. These guys are from all across the world. And even when you look at the college game, the kid at Michigan, Yaxel Luxembourg, I believe his name is, fantastic player, does not play basketball the way a normal center does, the way we were traditionally thinking about guys like Dwight Howard or Andrew Bynum, whatever. You know, even you look at the way Joel Embiid has progressed throughout his career. Most of his additions to his game came in the periphery, not about necessarily the scoring and the rebounding, the stuff that Nikola Jokic does so well. So I think this is just going to be a part of being a big moving forward. And it's one of the things that's so tantalizing about Victor Wembanyama is he's mirroring the concepts of Hakeem Olajuwon with Nikola Jokic at the size of 7'4". Also, he shoots like Steph Curry. So that's what I think, you know, you're touching on. And I was kind of going around the room last night with other media members, and I was trying to figure out, like, what percentage of Şengün or Jokic is Şengün? Like, if Jokic is the 100th percentile of Jokic,
is he at a 20? Is it a 15? Yeah.
I got answers ranging all the way up to 87%.
Wow. So in that estimation, that Alperen Şengün is 87% of what the Nuggets get from Nikola Jokic. Like, as a player, Alperen Şengün is just shy of 90% of what Nikola Jokic has kind of amassed as a 3-time MVP and arguably the best player in the world.
Yeah, and I don't think they're that wrong with that. I would go a little bit lower personally, maybe somewhere around 75%, because I think it's that extra bit, right, that makes Nikola Jokic. Like, it's that extra bit that makes Nikola Jokic that much better than Jamal Murray. I don't really think they're like that far apart in terms of how great they are at basketball. But it's that extra bit that separates the really good players from the All-Stars and the All-Stars from the MVPs and the MVPs from the Hall of Famers. And Jokic has all of those extra bits, right? So it's like, how do you really assess that? The play style is obviously similar between Alpi Sengun and Nikola Jokic. I will say, to Alpi Sengun's credit, his defense is much better than Nikola Jokic's was at that point in Jokic's career. He looks a lot more athletic and he's more mobile, but the thinking the game portion of it, I don't think he's quite at the IQ level of Jokic, which isn't a shot at him because Jokic is, again, in the 100th percentile of that in the history of basketball. So it was just so fun to watch that game, Richie, because not only was it Jokic and Sengun, it was Jokic and Kevin Durant, who's one of the greatest players of all time, going at the shot making at the end of the game. You could argue Kevin Durant's the best mid-range scorer of this era since Kobe Bryant retired. You could argue that over the last 5 years, Nikola Jokic has taken that crown. So that shot making was just absurd in that game. I mean, I'm a fan of the game, Richie. I love basketball. Don't get me wrong. Everyone knows I like the Nuggets. But I stood up on media row for the last 7 minutes of that game, and I was just going, holy heck, I can't believe that went in. Like, it was just a really fun game to be at.
We got 6 minutes of action from Peyton Watson, Jake, before he ultimately left with a right trunk contusion. Can you fill us in? Has there been any update on Peyton Watson's status, his condition, and what his prognosis may look like going forward?
The old caboose bruise. Never one you want to deal with, but it is challenging. And fortunately for the Nuggets, it's only that. David Adelman spoke after the game. I was there, and he talked about, Peyton's a really tough guy. If he's coming out hurt, he's hurt. But this isn't something that should impact him long term. Would I be surprised if he missed Thursday's game against Orlando? No. Would I be surprised if he played? No. I think this is going to be kind of a wait and see for the next couple of days, see how the swelling is on this. And I think he fell on the shot Amen Thompson blocked a few minutes before he actually checked out of the game. So he tried to play through it for a few minutes. And I think him coming back on the bench indicated that he was like trying to play through it, but it was just so uncomfortable. It wasn't worth giving a shot. But he's a very important piece of the Nuggets, especially now, given what else is going on with the team.
Yeah, injuries have become a pretty prevalent part of the conversation through the first third or so of their NBA season. Obviously, still without Aaron Gordon, Christian Brown, 2 members of your starting lineup, and 2 members, at least, certainly in Aaron Gordon's case, of your remaining core, but also 2 of your best defenders, right? Peyton Watson was somebody who was going to help maybe bridge some of that gap with what he brings from length and athleticism standpoint on the floor. And yet, Jake, the Nuggets are down Christian Brown. They're down Aaron Gordon. They lose Peyton Watson after 6 minutes of play against the number 3 seed Houston Rockets, one of the top teams in the West alongside the Nuggets underneath the Oklahoma City Thunder. And they keep finding ways to win. So where is your head at right now with the current injury status and situation of the Denver Nuggets? But more importantly, what does it say about this team that they are still able to contend in a postseason basketball playoff style atmosphere against a very good Western Conference team and come out on top?
If you've been going to Ball Arena a lot the last 2 months, there's 2 names you know well right now that you didn't know a few months ago. Gavin Brindley and Spencer Jones. These 2 guys are like cult heroes right now. Like, they're just being asked to do way too much, and they continue to just check every box. And like, it's been awesome to watch. Brindley's already earned the contract extension and gotten it. Spencer Jones is going to get a contract with the Denver Nuggets, a full-time contract here soon. It's going to happen. And what we saw from Spencer Jones last night, Richie, the Nuggets didn't have a center. They both fouled out of the game with 80 seconds left in overtime. Spencer Jones was playing center for the Denver Nuggets against Alpi Sengun in All-Star Center. Wasn't ideal, but that comes on the heels of him spending the entire second half guarding Kevin Durant and playing 41 minutes in this game and also hitting 2 of the biggest shots in the game. It was unbelievable that this guy, who was an afterthought for this season, just thought to be maybe a useful tool in the tool shed just in case, break glass in case of emergency. Well, guess what? The emergency came and they needed him, and he's been awesome. And Spencer Jones is going to play for this team in the playoffs. He has just carved out a role that is irreplaceable. And last night, he was asked to do like 3 different things that he should never be asked to do. And Nikola Jokic said it best. sometimes in order to win a special game, you have to do something special, something you don't usually do. And
Wow.
that's what Spencer Jones did last night.
Jake, I got to be honest with you. One, I fully co-sign everything that you said there. It's been miraculous and almost like improbable to watch the way that some of this has unfolded with Spencer Jones specifically. But Jake, I know when we look at the Western Conference and the NBA postseason and all that, Oklahoma City's off to one of the best starts in NBA history, franchise aside. And it kind of has always been this understanding of, well, you're fighting for second in the West, and it's going to come down to, can a team like the Nuggets beat Oklahoma City, presumably in the Western Conference Finals, and prevent them from repeating as champs? Because if the Nuggets can't do it, there's not many that you would list that could. And Jake, the more that I watched this team, who continues one of the best starts, if not the best starts in the history of Nuggets basketball, and the way that they're doing it in improbable ways, in ways that we didn't anticipate them having to do with all of the depth that they've amassed, and thank goodness that they did because of the situation that's unfolded. Jake, it's really giving me more and more confidence to say, hey, if this Nuggets team rolls into a postseason fully healthy and ready to go with the adversity that they battled through over the first third of their season that will presumably carry over down the stretch, tell me why this Nuggets team couldn't beat the Thunder, as amazing as they are, as David and Goliath as it might look statistically in some aspects, and from a record standpoint. I get it. I'm certainly not saying it would be the favored outcome. But Jake, I've just been so impressed with the resiliency and the grit and the resolve of this Nuggets team to be able to overcome some of the injuries and the other factors that they've had to overcome with a first-year full-time head coach and so many new pieces working their way quicker than anticipated into meaningful minutes and major parts of the rotation. It's just given me a lot of optimism about what could be a handful of months from now.
To me, the Houston Rockets are clearly the third best team in the NBA and the third best team in the West, third in each. And what I see from the Denver Nuggets when they match up with the Houston Rockets is very similar to what we saw from the Denver Nuggets versus the Los Angeles Lakers in 2023. The teams were honestly pretty even. The thing was, the Denver Nuggets had the best player. So they won down the stretch of every single game. And that's what's happening with these two matchups so far. And we'll see again in the third matchup on Saturday against the Houston Rockets is the Nuggets simply have the better player. And last night, Richie, the Nuggets had the two best players on the floor with Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray was better than anyone else in that game for the Rockets, which says a lot again, because they have Alpi Sengun,
Kevin Durant,
Amen Thompson, who's one of the rising stars in this league, could be an all-star this year. And then they're just deep and they've got bodies you can throw at you. But I'll tell you this, and I'm like banging the drum. I'm telling everyone to just calm down a little bit because this Thunder team is unbelievable. They've lost 2 games this year. But the recipe to beat the Thunder that we saw the Spurs deploy in the NBA Cup, that we've seen from the Indiana Pacers, that we've seen from the Denver Nuggets over the last 12 months. The Denver Nuggets are one of the only teams that can do this, as are the Spurs, as are the Rockets, which is they can play through the post. They don't have to dribble, drive, get into the defense. They can just throw it to a big man and let them do that. And it's important because OKC is so good at attacking the ball and creating ball pressure. They just blow up dribble handoffs. They blow up pick and rolls. Well, if you just put Nikola Jokic in the post to cook, you can kind of isolate their defense a little bit and work them one-on-one, which worked the entire series against the Oklahoma City Thunder for the Nuggets last year until Game 7 when half the team was hurt and Oklahoma City said, we'll live with anyone but Nikola Jokic getting a shot, and they doubled and tripled and fouled him the entire Game 7. And we saw how that went. When you have the depth that is proven, and we're seeing it being proven right now, as you're alluding to, Richie, with guys like Spencer Jones getting these huge moments, Cameron Johnson having to step up lately, Tim Hardaway Jr., who's been nails for this team. If it ain't working out with CB or Bruce, they're going to throw someone else in there. Like they will find a solution this year. Last year, they didn't have any options to find a solution. They just had to run it and keep running it back. So the versatility that we've seen in the forced versatility that the Nuggets have had to issue because of the injuries, I think is really fascinating. And David Adelman's done such a good job managing all of this through the first part of the season. And I'm really impressed with this team, Richie. It's just unfortunate it's coming in a season where the Oklahoma City Thunder look like they're going to be one of the greatest teams in the history of the NBA. because the Denver Nuggets clearly look like a championship team in any other ordinary year in the NBA as of right now.
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating watch down the stretch, and you are right. Sometimes it can be unfortunate that it feels like your stars are aligning at the same time that a meteor is shooting across the sky that you have to contend with, and that meteor obviously would be, in this case, the Oklahoma City Thunder. Last thing I want to get to, because it was one of the more viral sound bites to come after the game, not Nikola Jokic denouncing Jokmas and saying that he doesn't like it or appreciate it, but actually from the Houston Rockets side of things with Ime Udoka, who had more than a mouthful to say about the officiating in last night's game. Take a listen.
Part of the BPL, I guess?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, just in general, I think it's poorly officiated game I've seen in a long time. Two have no business being out there, and the crew chief is acting starstruck. So you're seeing all kind of inconsistent calls, and I'm sure we should have got a few more texts.
What do you say to your team when a game is being called the way that it was tonight?
Keep being who we are. We're not going to adjust to poor officials. So we're going to do what we do, and hopefully they can adjust and call it the right way.
Listen, Jake, nobody, and I am actually confident almost to say nobody, loathes officials more than me. If you could give me robot umps and robot electronic officials, microchips and all that stuff, and eliminate the human element from so many things that drive us nuts in our professional sports, I would sign up for it in a heartbeat. And I'll give at least a little bit of a nod to Ime Udoka in the sense of saying, hey, if you're going to get a fine, which he's going to get a fine, earn it. Go all in. Don't go half in, half out and get one and then maybe feel like you left a little bit on the table. That was a clear-cut message from the head coach of the Houston Rockets about how he felt about the officiating in the game, Jake. But in fairness, you're complaining about the officiating in a game where the reigning league MVP and his backup both foul out. How can you complain about an unfair whistle when the other team's best player and their highly touted replacement both foul out?
I agree with Ime Udoka in the sense that the game was very poorly officiated last night against the Nuggets for the first 3 quarters. Like, it was really bad, Richie. It was one of the worst officiated games I've seen this season. And that says a lot because Zach Zarba, who he's referring to as the crew chief, is one of the best refs in the NBA, like bar none. Like almost everyone agrees on that. And they had, I believe, 2 rookie call-up or G League call-up refs last night. So that's what he's referring to. 2 people shouldn't even have been there. He's going to get fined $50K, like at least for that. And the thing is, he should have been kicked out of the game in the first half when he ran onto the court after Kevin Durant, I think, technical or flagrant foul. It was ridiculous. The referees had zero control of that game from the jump. They were calling it so ticky-tacky, which stunk because it should have been a very physical game. It was a physical game, but there was no reason to call half these calls. And Richie, I can't wrap my head around half the rules in the NBA. Why is it a closeout foul and a high-five foul on the three-point line, but it's not on every single Sombor shuffle Nikola Jokic shoots where he gets fouled? It doesn't make any sense. So I don't know what Ime Udoka really could be complaining about besides that Tim Hardaway clearly got tripped by Amen Thompson at the end of the game.
That was the controversial one that had a lot of people stirring. The knee contact led to the tripping. You had to go to like the Zapruder film Sky Cam to be able to see it because the other angles weren't showing it. That was definitely the one that I think caught a lot of ire.
I tweeted at the time, there's no debate. He tripped him. Like, let's move it. Let's keep moving on. Let's go to overtime. Like, there's nothing to debate there. So I don't know. We're going to find out in the last 2-minute report here in a second when the referees in the NBA league office tell us that the referees on the court did a good job last night, like always.
Yeah.
But we'll find out. And, Ime is probably going to be wrong about what he had to say specifically, but I agree with what he is thinking, which is the referees were really rough last night. Even Jamal Murray admitted they missed a couple calls on both sides. And I'm sick of this being a conversation after every single game, but it is. And the NBA has just such a officiating problem, and it's been this way for so long. And I watched the Denver Nuggets be so good in 2023 in the playoffs that it was undeniable that they were going to win the championship despite whistles going against them. Nikola Jokic fouled out in a finals game, and it didn't matter because the Nuggets were so good. So for the Nuggets last night to be able to hang on even for 80 seconds in a game where they had no centers hints at that undeniability thing that is so important from a champion.
I appreciate the call an ambulance, but not for me moment. Or, yeah, not for you moment that you did there, going like, yeah, I agree. It was the worst officiated game ever against the Denver Nuggets. So Ime's right, but not in the way that he thinks that he is. It is time to hit the turn, presented by The Birdie Bar, Louisville's premier indoor golf bar and restaurant. You can check them out online or on Instagram at thebirdie.bar. Jake, the Denver Broncos. They found a way to do it again, win their 11th straight game of the season against a Green Bay Packers team that considers itself, and it certainly at the time, was one of the top seeds in the NFC. Now, they went through a host of injuries over the course of that game, which is a testament, I think, to the physical nature of playing the Denver Broncos on both sides of the football that are certainly going to change maybe the ceiling or the trajectory of where they're headed in the NFC. But if we're focusing on the Denver Broncos, Jake, I really felt like this game against the Packers was that measuring stick game, that litmus test game to say, hey, this isn't the 3-win Washington Commanders. This isn't the 2-win Las Vegas Raiders that you had a 10-7 victory over on Thursday Night Football before playing them again. This is a playoff team, and this is a postseason caliber matchup with a good defense, a team that ironically I feel in Green Bay is built very similarly to the Broncos. A good defense. They try to run the ball, and when they can, and Jordan Love, or in that case, Bo Nix, are clicking, they're pretty tough to stop. There's not a lot of weak spots to key in on. And Jake, they battled through adversity. They found themselves down at multiple points throughout the game. And Bo Nix, when he was called upon to do so, rose to the occasion, put some balls through a freaking birdhouse. Most importantly, to Cortland Sutton. And then you had the one there in the end zone as well toward the end of the game. It really felt to me like this was a prove-it situation for the Broncos, and I think they passed it with flying colors.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know how the Broncos do in that game if the roles were reversed and Nick Bonito and Cortland Sutton leave with injury and Micah Parsons and Christian Watson stay healthy. I don't know if that game turns out with the same result, but that's football. And Pat Surtain made one of the best plays we've seen him make in his career, which says a lot because he's a fantastic player. And it completely flipped the game. And I thought Sean Payton, who admitted he didn't know the score multiple times in that game, actually did a really good job in that game. I was impressed with Sean, which I'm not always impressed with Sean until the very end, where he had some bizarre decisions to not just close out the game. And of course, the Broncos just had to win a 1-score game. They can't just make it 2 scores because that's been the season. So yeah, that's the best win they've had all season. There's no doubt about it. They've got an incredibly tough game against the Jags, who are red hot this weekend coming up. And they're one of the only teams that can still get that top spot in the AFC. So Broncos win this weekend. I think it's pretty clear that they're the Super Bowl favorite, if not one of the Super Bowl favorites. I think them beating Green Bay in the way they did kind of made everyone finally believe, okay, this isn't just some lucky team with a weak schedule. This is a real deal team.
Yes, bingo. Because at the end of the day, Jake, in the NFL, I don't think you can luck your way into 11 consecutive wins. Certainly not 12 in a season. I know the Chiefs last year were 12-0 in 1-score games, but I think that a lot of people attributed that to some luck and some whistles and some things in there. But at the end of the day, the reality is, you got to be a good football team. You have to be a resilient football team. You have to be able to perform in clutch situations when the lights are the brightest. And the Broncos have proven that they're capable of doing that. It certainly hasn't always looked pretty, but I think that they've put on paper in terms of a resume that there aren't a lot of teams in the NFL that they can't beat. Whether they will or won't win a Super Bowl and return to Santa Clara where they won it 10 years ago remains to be seen. But it was that exact notion was the genesis, Jake, behind our poll question for the week, which is, are the Denver Broncos currently playing like the best team in the NFL right now? And I think that what's interesting about that, Jake, is I think there's clearly one other team in the NFL that you can point to and say, hey, this team might be better. But before I get into that, what is your answer?
The Los Angeles Rams are the best team in the NFL, and the Denver Broncos are the best team in the AFC. I would go back and forth with the Patriots, but that second half from the Patriots this past week was disgusting.
You're up 21-0.
Yeah, they should have won that game. The Broncos haven't done anything like that.
At home.
Yeah. So, and I get it's Josh Allen, and I get that they have all the smoke, but the Patriots are in the exact same situation as the Broncos with a second-year quarterback, and there's no real excuse comparing the two teams. The Patriots are definitely on the rise. It's going to be a bright future behind Drake May, but in terms of right now, I think the Broncos are the best team in the AFC, and it's their AFC to lose. But who are the best teams in maybe all sports? KSE, baby. The KSE supremacy lives on.
Yeah, and with the James Palmer and I yesterday, because we brought up the Rams as well. And if you kind of go position group by position group between the Rams and the Broncos of which ones you would rather take in each situation, it may still and probably does, at least in my mind, lean Rams in terms of which position groups or players that you would take over their counterparts on the Broncos. But it's close enough, Jake, that I actually think the question is warranted to say, hey, they may not be number one, but they're in the conversation, and you don't have to, they don't fall far beyond one before you list where the Broncos stand in terms of NFL style power rankings. Quickly on the way out, they got some disappointing news, did the Denver Broncos, on the injury front as it relates to Brandon Jones. He has a pectoral injury that, according to our 9 News Broncos insider Mike Kliss, is worse in nature than what Patrick Surtain went through early in the season, where he missed 3 games over the course of 4 weeks and was placed on injured reserve. Given the proximity to the postseason, as we are now just 3 games away from the end of the regular season, with everything that the Broncos have in front of them and how much is at stake, given the position they put themselves in, are you concerned at all, Jake, about little pieces of the armor starting to chip away before the start of a postseason where it feels like everything's on the line for Denver?
Yeah, and I'm still curious to hear about RJ's rib injury, because what happens with RJ if they don't have RJ? I think Jalil's a good player, but they don't really have a running back that they can rely on. And this team is built on running the ball. They've had a creative run game most of the year. You mentioned the Brandon Jones thing. Brandon Jones and Hufanga have been an incredible combination on that backside for the Broncos. Do they, Chris Abrams-Draymond, I think, is, again, a really solid player, but I don't know if I want him out there for every snap of the game. Do they get creative and put Jahdae Barron in somewhat of a role? They have all that talent there with that player. I don't know if it's asking a ton to be a rookie out of position in a playoff game, but they've got to do something in that spot. And, I think that Jones and Hufanga have covered up a lot of the holes at times that the linebackers leave. I'm not saying that Greenlaw has been a problem, but I think we all know that there's some ups and downs that come with Alex Singleton. He's a really good, tackler, but maybe not the best in pass coverage. And the fact that they have all these other guys are cool. And again, the Broncos' entire defensive scheme is built off man coverage and then them sending not 4, but 5 rushers at the quarterback all of the time. So, definitely some chips away at the armor, as you mentioned, Richie, but that's going to be the reality of football on December 16th. And they don't have any major injuries right now, unlike most of these teams who are down 1 or 2 guys for the year with ACLs or Achilles or whatever it might be. So they've got to keep rolling. And this, at least now as of December 16th, this appears to be their window. This appears to be the year that the Denver Broncos need to make the most of their opportunity. I know Bo Nix will probably get better in the future, but we don't know who's going to be healthy in the future, what team awaits. The AFC is wide open. The Broncos are relatively healthy. This might be their chance.
Yeah, I agree. I think they have to treat it as such because, again, you just can't factor in the set of circumstances that it's going to take for you to win 11 plus consecutive games in an NFL season ever again. Jake, the franchise record is 13 that was set in 1998. And I think the Broncos have better than a puncher's chance to eclipse that this season. I think there's a very real chance after getting over the hurdle with the Packers, and the Jaguars are an AFC playoff team as well. But if they can continue to do that, you've now got a Patrick Mahomes-less Chiefs teams on Christmas, and you've got a game against the LA Chargers, which may be for the AFC West, but it also may not mean anything. And I was asking Josh Dover earlier today, because I think it's fascinating, if the Broncos put themselves in a position where they've won 13 games in a row, they've locked up the AFC and the number 1 seed, and that LA Chargers game is effectively meaningless, is Sean Payton the kind of guy that plays the starters and goes full bore because he wants to beat the franchise record for consecutive wins and own that piece of Broncos history that no one has been able to eclipse up to that point?
He has the ego to do it, Richie, but I think that the thing on Sean's mind ultimately is becoming the first coach in NFL history, not Broncos history,
to win 2 Super Bowls with 2 different teams.
2 different teams. And that's the thing that Sean's trying to prove to everybody. It'd be cool if they got a win streak, but no one's going to really remember the win streak if they don't win the Super Bowl, and everyone knows that.
And on the injury front to Brandon Jones, I had a thought earlier that I think should hopefully provide a little bit of comfort and solace for those in Broncos country, because listen, PJ Locke stepping into that role and having to stand in for Brandon Jones opposite Talanoa Hufanga, it's not ideal, right? I mean, everybody talks about the next man up mentality in sports, but there's a little bit of a clicheism to that, because the next man up inherently isn't as good as the man in front of them, or they wouldn't be behind them in the first place. They're starters.
Locke was a starter all of last year.
Correct. And that's what I was going to say, is the Broncos have had multiple instances, though, where that next man up and that reserve player had to be called upon for a significant length of time. You had PJ Locke as a safety, and you had Justin Strnad spend a lot of time as a starting linebacker in that backfield. And both of them performed reasonably, in some cases admirably well, in my opinion, in that reserve duty. And so I think that, yes, while I was on the record before the season saying I think Talanoa Hufanga and Brandon Jones are going to be the best safety tandem in the NFL come the end of the 2025 season, and I think they came pretty close to that by a lot of estimations. I think they've been a very, very solid duo. I am confident in Vance Joseph and the defense's ability to plug in a guy like PJ Locke and allow operations to continue as close to normal as you would expect when you lose a quality starter down the backstretch of this season, and give a handful of runway games before that secondary, with PJ Locke most likely, has to face playoff caliber competition in games that are win or go home.
Yeah. PJ Locke's been really rock solid for the Broncos when given the opportunity. Like, that's the thing. You compared them to the Packers on the start of the show, and I agree with you in the sense that they have a lot of offensive weapons and stuff like that, and Love and Knicks are similar players, but the defenses are completely different. The defense for the Packers was a patchwork job behind Micah Parsons, essentially, whereas the Broncos have this like deep defense that comes at you in waves, and they have guys that can replace guys, and it'll be okay. Brandon Jones, they spent a lot of money on for a reason 2 off seasons ago. Like, he's a really good player, but I think they can survive at least till the AFC Championship game, when Jones will be next eligible if the Broncos do get that bye, and be okay. And for Jones, that would be, if the Broncos again get that far, that's 5 weeks of rest and missing 3 games. So that's really valuable if the Broncos have another healthy player coming back for that, important 2-game, hopefully, run. So yeah, there's going to be someone else that goes down in the next 3 weeks. It's inevitable. It just happens. But there are also guys coming back, whether it's Jones eventually or Ben Powers here soon. And the Broncos offensive line, which has been solid, and we haven't talked much about it recently. I think they've been better the last couple games. It's going to get even better to where it was in the first couple games of the season with Ben Powers, because there is clearly a portion of the season where Bo Nix was stealing ghosts a little bit from that left guard side, I think, because he didn't have the ultimate trust like he did in Ben Powers. And that will change the game a little bit for the Broncos. And again, my eyes could be deceiving me. I'm not like the biggest football expert like Mark Schlereth, but this is just what I see. And that's what I think was giving Bo a little bit of trouble early, midway through the season, whereas the last few weeks, a little bit more settled with the feet. We hear the good foot athlete comments and Sean Payton, right?
Yeah, no, Bo played one of his best, if not his best games as a pro. And I think you saw a step forward with Sean Payton and Bo Nix as a head coach quarterback combination, because I thought Sean called a great game. I thought they managed the game well. Sean didn't abandon the run with the RJ Harvey situation. He finished with 19 carries for 65 yards and kept balance enough to make that a tight contested game going into the fourth, where they were ultimately able to pull away. Jake, that is all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you like and subscribe to our Denver Sports 1043 The Fan YouTube channel. You can find us at Denver Sports 1043 on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Jake, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday afternoon, and the rest of you out there, have a wonderful day. We will catch you tomorrow at noon for the next rundown.